I'm Sharon Barnes-Waters, and welcome to City Views, the show about people, places, and things that make New York great. Well, you may know him as one half of the legendary hip-hop group Kid and Play. You've seen him in movies or even tried to do his signature kick step. Well, he's here because he's making his directorial debut in his documentary, And I Danced, at the Hip Hop Film Festival, August the 6th. And you want to get tickets for that because you want to see him in this role. And I want to welcome to City Views, Christopher Play Martin. Welcome, Christopher.
Hi, Sharon. How are you doing today?
So good to have you. And let me say, welcome home.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
Because you're a Queen native.
Queens, yes.
So
East Elmhurst, Queens.
Yeah, so you're back home. And when I heard the title, And I Danced, I thought it was fitting of who you are and the journey you've taken.
That's true. I could see how someone would assume that if they didn't know that much about it, maybe it was pertaining to me.
And it's not.
Far from it.
It's not. But before we get into that, just tell me about your journey of dance, music, and movies. Tell me a little bit about your journey coming from Queens.
Well, I mean, you know, let's round it off as just entertainment, period, has always been a driving force that God has used in my life, very inspirational, encouraging. It's interesting that you asked that question because I used to be a big fan when I was little, when it came time to like Sunday morning on TV, maybe even Saturday, and watching a lot of black and white movies, Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers and the Nicholas Brothers.
Talk about dancers.
Like yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So I can remember, you know, I always liked the feel-goodness that those particular pictures gave, and the happy ending at the end, and you know, everybody just danced their way to a great life. So, but in no way was I conscious that it was ever going to be something that was literally going to be a part of my life.
Because your life story.
Yeah, I mean, what ended up happening was I came across something that I didn't know I was good at, would get attention doing it, and as I tell people in my speaking engagements and stuff, God used hip-hop to save my life. So really all it was about was escapism, as it was for a lot of youth in the early days of mid-70s or early 70s going into the 80s and 90s. You know, a lot would be going on in the neighborhoods. Yeah,
because you're in the city that birthed hip-hop.
Exactly.
I mean, you're here. You're soaking it all in.
Yeah, so to be able to go someplace to just get away from some of the things that weren't so pleasant at home, and escapism, like entertainment has been known to do forever.
And now you're
supposed to do.
Supposed to. And out of that, you've taken this journey into making documentaries. What made you want to go to this avenue? What led to this?
Well, I've been working on documentaries for a while. My first, I don't even know what my first was. I did one called Welcome to Durham during my stint in Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina. And it was a documentary about the gangs that were growing in the North Carolina area, the Bloods and the Crips. And it was called Welcome to Durham. And I actually performed at the New York Film Festival, and I ended up getting an award as a full-length feature.
Wow.
I forgot what year that was. And then I've done others as well. As a matter of fact, I'm working on two simultaneously now, finishing up And I Danced, and also one called Can Hip Hop Go to School, which is asking a lot of hip-hop scholars and very well-known people in the entertainment business, should hip-hop be accredited course in the higher learning community. So,
why not?
Yeah, why not? I mean,
why not?
You know, we can do some things.
Yeah, and then how did you come about doing And I Danced?
Well, the way I tell it in the documentary is, and it wasn't as quickly like that or as well contained as that, but over a period of time, every once in a while when I had a chance to breathe and kind of channel surfing, and you go to the music channels and they have like a certain day or a month where they celebrate hip-hop, you know, the culture in music videos. And as I'm watching them and I'm looking at, you know, just going down memory lane, what dawned on me is a lot of people were excited about these music videos, and they would get these dance moves from them, and they'd have a crush on that girl, or girls would have a crush on that guy, but no one ever really knew the names. But the thing that really perturbed me, I always wanted to say that word, is that I don't like what women have become or been used for in hip-hop today. And I just wanted to create a contrast in regards to telling the stories of the women then, or girls at that time then, what it was about, what you needed to do to even be involved. It's so interesting because a lot of the girls, now women and mothers and entrepreneurs we know now, but back then, we didn't even know they had the kind of curves or measurements they had because they wore the baggy clothes and stuff all the time.
It wasn't
They
about
were
that. It was about
involved
the
because of
dance.
their skills
Yeah,
and
they
their
danced.
talents.
Yeah.
And not throwing shade or judging any women today. I understand people do what they got to do, but men or hip hop and R&B entertainment, we need to be more accountable in regards to the messages we're sending out there, because it's more of an effect than just a quick time feeling or visual thing. It affects people. It puts an impression on people of undeveloped minds and stuff. So I just wanted as a sub story in there, or undertone in there, to just I hope people see that a lot of the women in there, now women today, what they were about then and what they've become now. And all of them are successful mothers and daughters and entrepreneurs, and they're doing great things. So just hopefully being inspirational, let those know today that it's not about your body, it's about what's in your head.
And then you talked about those dancers.
Yeah.
You know, and those groups that energized. Tell me a little bit about
Well, I
how
mean,
they
you know,
made things move and feel.
well, the thing about it is like I said in the beginning when we first started talking, it was escapism for a lot of us and stuff. And one of the things that was really touching, and a lot of these people I've known for quite some time, but to sit down and work on a project like this and to really talk, and for me to become of a mature age where I'm really listening to somebody, they confided, or they trust the project so much where they were able to tell things that a lot of people didn't know. And some of it might bring tears to people's eyes. One of the things that let me know I was on the right track with this project was a great documentary called 20 Feet from Stardom. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
No, I haven't seen that one.
You need to see that. It was an award winner. It's a story about background dancers. And the reason why it's called 20 Feet from Stardom is because that's usually the official amount of feet that you are
20.
away, from the actual star singer, like a Luther Vandross or Diana Ross, whatever. It's 20 feet. That's how far they are, and I didn't know that. And
now when I watch a video, I'm going to be like, are they 20 feet?
yeah, I'm sure they're a little off, but you know that's where it comes from. But when I saw that, and I was already in the midst of working on this project slowly but surely, is just to be able to just hear and let people know whatever you might be using as an excuse to do what you do today, they were facing those same issues too. I even have the privilege and the honor with all of them, but one in particular that stands out is the interview with one of the original Soul Train dancers. And to hear his story, his name is Tyrone Proctor. He's known as Tyrone the Bone Proctor. He's the one that was responsible for what Madonna turned into voguing, but originally was with I'm glad she's not here in front of me. We're friends from Shalimar, Jody Watley. You know, the move she was doing. If you look at her early videos and you look at Vogue with Madonna, you'll see some influence in there. But interview with him, and him just sharing what really went on during the week when we were so excited to see Soul Train. We didn't know what those dancers was going throughout the week, and it wasn't great, you know. And I'm like, wow, you know. And then even with others, you know, Omar Lopez, who is well known for dancing with most of Janet Jackson's. But he started out literally with Kid and Play, went on to Salt and Pepper, and then went on to that. So it's great stories. Some of them are very touching. Another young lady by the name of Artie Angel, and she was in a lot of LL Cool J videos, all of that, but was in a bad car accident and paralyzed from the waist down. But she still continues to dance. You'll see her in the Ludacris video, Stand Up.
Because
she has a part
I got to say this, because when I was looking at the trailer, someone said back in the day, the 80s, 90s, when MTV and all the coming out, they didn't have choreographers. They weren't the professional dancers. You know, people polish now. They've gone to school for a couple of years. They were doing their own thing. Where did that come from? Is it the streets? How did that happen? They don't have choreographers. They're not professional. But they brought something to the table.
It's the same DNA of hip-hop itself, you know. Who thought about putting two turntables together? You work with what you had. Some of them were admirers of ballet and modern dance, but modern dance didn't fit into the beat that you would hear in a what would be eventually called a hip hop record or rap record. So you make it work. I mean, you go with what you're feeling and
Yeah.
stuff inside. They can share and articulate that better than I can, and hopefully that's what the piece will do. But it's about an evolution. It's about what organically starts coming about, and how each one of them. The thing was interesting is the camaraderie in regards to when we would meet at places like the Latin Quarter or the World or whatever the flavor of the month with 1018 or Roxy or whatever, and you see this person doing that, but you got your own thing, so you
Mix it.
interpret, you put a little bit of this
Spin
into
on it, you
that or
put your
whatever.
flavor,
Not
your
too
spin.
much because biting wasn't too it wasn't smiled upon back then. But you create your own, and it evolves in a hybrid of sort of certain kind of moves and things like that.
And because when you look at those dances, they make you feel good.
Yeah.
They make you want to move. They set trends. How do you set a trend? What becomes a trend? I mean, you had the kickstep. So
But
what
we didn't mean
becomes?
that. See, the interesting thing about the kickstep was it was birthed out of a problem, because what happened
Problem.
was when Kid and I finally had the opportunity to go on the road, the offers that were made to us wasn't enough to bring our dancers with us. But we knew up to that point people would be expecting that presence of dance in our presentation live on stage. So that's when we said, okay, well, we'll have to dance. And
We got to do it.
yeah, and then from that, some of the dancers that were dancing with us, we're like, okay, show us some moves, show us some things we can do, but keep in mind we have to have breath to say our raps and stuff like that. So that's how those things came about. And plus something that's kind of missing now in a lot of your hip hop or rap music now, then you had like bridges, you had music in between the raps, or the
yeah.
opening was a musical whatever, so you had a chance to put a dance thing in there.
In between.
You don't have those kind of structures in compositions now.
Oh my goodness. So what is your advice to people? Because I asked somebody else this the other day, looking how you were back then, looking at how things change and
Right.
change. Do you think there is a misconception of what hip hop is? Are people saying they are hip hop, but not really authentic to what it is, or it's supposed to be?
Well, I mean, you have to be honest with where you're at. Are you open to change? There would be a respectful amount or group that would have a problem with calling today's hip hop, and then some not so much. I feel very fortunate enough that I've seen so many different eras and stuff of it. I have a particular era that's more my favorite than others, which is the late, well, the 80s. You know, I'm not so crazy about what it started becoming in the 90s, but I get it. And that's what's important, is when
Okay.
you get it and you let it do its thing. It just depends, you know. What's your cup of tea in hip hop? What's your era that you like? I'm gonna flip the script right now.
But see, if I do that, I have to tell my age, and I'm gonna have to kill you.
No, you don't have to tell your age. You don't have to do
But
that.
I mean, I grew up with you.
Yeah, but it's
I
interesting because there's a
did
lot
grow
of
up
young
with you.
heads, because I'm very much involved in the education community. There's a lot of young heads that weren't even around when we were doing our thing, and they
I
really
was.
are obsessed with our era, or even younger. And it's interesting. I mean, even look at it now with the return of certain hairstyles and stuff like that. So,
But I mean, I heard, for instance, this weekend I was in a supermarket and I heard what was supposed to be hip hop.
Okay.
But then I heard some lyrics that weren't very flattering, and I just cringed. And so that's why I always, ask the question: is it true? Is it pure hip hop, or is it just it's just changing?
well, I
you
guess
know?
sometimes you might want to go deep enough, or maybe you don't want to go too deep. Well, what would be a person's definition of hip hop? Like a good friend of mine, Ralph Tresvant from New Edition, gave me an interesting perspective on it. He broke it down. He said, back in the days, Black Panthers and all that kind of stuff, it was like, what is hip? Hip meant to be in the know. Are you hip to this? Are you hip to what they're doing up the street? Hip meant, are you knowledgeable of what the latest thing is? Hop means to move. It's an action. So with that knowledge, you put it into action. So that's how he brought it. And I was like, wow, that's like really, really deep. Some people may think you're overthinking it. So it just depends on what your definition of hip hop is that can hopefully bring, if it was a camera, bring some clarity or put it into focus in regards to what you think it should be. For me, like I said, it came from an era of escapism. It was something to do. A lot of people didn't know what to do. You have the 4 elements of hip hop. Some people think
Yeah.
it's 5. I can embrace that too. Where it's like you found, for people who were lost or didn't know what their lives was going to be, it was the introduction of, wow, I do something, I'm looking at the reaction of people when I do it, is something that I do pretty well. I know as I try and engage it or bring it into the higher learning community, don't take me so literal. I don't mean bring it as a course where you're teaching people how to say a rhyme. You're introducing them to a situation where they might, once they're in it, they might have came in it thinking to be a rapper or a producer. But as they get introduced to how a set is made for a music video, you got to learn how to count your money.
Yes.
How to
You
deal
learn
with
it
that,
all.
how to deal with the law of it, how to deal with so many aspects of the entire thing.
business, yeah.
I know many people I've met who are successful bankers, successful, and they're like, they are accountants for successful rappers. But they came into it wanting to be a rapper, but they found out they had this gift with numbers, or they found out they were a gift with making a set. They found out they had a gift to be able to create the outfits and stuff. And many of them, when you speak to them, it's been so many times, they're like, yeah, I was called MC so-and-so, but then I found out I could do this, and this is what I do now. So,
So when we watch this documentary, And I Danced, what are we going to come away knowing that we didn't know before?
Basically, what I need for it to be is a tribute for many, a celebration and a tribute, and putting some names to some faces, just to hear what it took to accomplish what they've accomplished, and just to have their place in hip hop history. That's what's important to me, for that to be known.
And some of them have gone on to do great things.
I mean, it's amazing. You know, some of them are great realtors. Some of them are casting agents. Some of them are still teaching dance.
Working on other projects.
They're happy. They're fulfilled. They have stories and they have an experience that no one could ever take away from them. I'm impressed with how well balanced they are. It's not like anybody was bitter and they feel like this should have happened or whatever. Some nurses and doctors and all of that. So it's amazing. I mean, this piece right here is not going to be the finished piece. I'm introducing a very, it's still a work in process, because it's still, right now too, what I'm also capturing is a lot of great interviews with artists themselves that are talking about how important it was to have dancers in their show and the effect they had on them. I have Genuine, I have Salt from Salt and Pepper, Chili from TLC, Antibars, and I mean, like, the list goes on.
And on.
Yeah, and I'm still getting them as I continue to travel and things of that nature. So,
and as we're closing out, what other projects are you working on? I want to get that in.
Well, I mean, right now, Kid and I, for some reason, by God's grace and the love of people, we're traveling and performing as much as we did in the height. Maybe. Maybe.
You know that you want to be asked to do that, but you're traveling together.
All I can say is the Icy Hot and the Ben Gay is waiting for us off stage. But no, we're having a great time, us and Salt and Pepper, and we're on tour with TLC and all of that, so it's really good. And then there's some things to be announced in the near future that I'm doing with some pretty impressive
some other documentaries
colleges.
And other stuff.
Yeah.
So universities, and I'm sure other documentaries in the future.
Yeah, I have. Like I told you off Mike, that there's some I definitely have my eye on. I'd like to do one on Frankie Crocker, big up for New York, even though he was bi-coastal at times. And some other things in the works. But yeah, right now my plate is pretty full, and I'm in fact, myself and the legendary producer Kenny Gamble from Gamble and Huff, we just finished our first episode of a talk series called Architects of Hip Hop, and my first guest is a good friend, is Big Daddy Kane and Grandmaster Cass. And I have some very nice people in it that had some great things to say. Ice Cube, T.I., all of them, and Remy Ma and Fat Joe and all of them. So we've got that in the can. So I'm in talks with he and I work together on it, which is an honor, and we're involving Suzanne DePass now. So life is good.
That is
God is good.
And I just want to tell our audience again, they can catch And iDANCED at the Hip Hop Film Festival on August the 6th. To get more information on that, go to Hip Hop Film Festival, hiphopfilmfestival.org. And the 1010 Wins is a media partner of the Hip Hop Film Festival. And you have done a great documentary, and it's called And I Dance. And I want to thank Christopher Play Martin for stopping by City Views today. Thank you,
Sharon.
Christopher.
This also
We
is a
appreciate
dream
you.
come true. Whoever thought Dell and Willie Martin's son, Christopher Martin, would be on the 1010 Win station here.
Yes.
Super cool.
We're glad to have you. Come back anytime
Well,
when you
few
do any
more things to
documentary.
do, but I'm coming close.
Come
It's
back.
right here. There
Come
you go.
back.
Cool.
Open invitation.
Thank
and
you.
right here on City
We'll see if
Views.
you mean it.
I mean it.
Okay.
I mean it. I mean it. You heard him. He'll be back. Thank you, Christopher.
Thank you very much. God bless you all.